when you first go around the world, on your first orbit, all you see is what is familiar to you, because that's what is important to you. You know, you'll see a place that, you know, that you've seen on a map, or maybe that you visited.
Like
You actually feel
like,
you feel a compulsion to point out places that you visited to the other crew members. You go, hey, look, there's Budapest. I went to Budapest, as if somehow that matters. And then on your second time around, that starts to fade. And by your 50th time around, where you've been doesn't matter. And by your 1000th time around, you see the world for what it actually is, and the immensity of it, and the eternal patience of it. You can say 4.5 billion years; it means nothing, right? What's the difference between 3.5 billion years and 4.5 billion years? In your mind, they're the same thing, but the difference is a billion years. You know, so the numbers mean nothing to you conceptually until you see the whole world, and you recognize the immense age of it, and therefore the patience of it, and the completely pervasive nature of the life that is all around the world, and the self-healing nature of the world, and the unconscious gorgeousness of it. All of that just pours into you, and also then the true perspective of how we fit in, both physically, geographically, as well as historically. You start to get a sense of all that, and it's very difficult to project that onto somebody else. But when you've had those views, they seep into you. And the purpose of this book was to give people those direct views, so that they could draw the conclusions for themselves. I don't want to tell you what to think about the world, but I would prefer that you'd seen the whole world before you made your conclusions about it. I want people to hold the world in their hands and actually get a sense of how it all fits together. And parts of it are beautiful, and parts of it are kind of weirdly ugly, but it's all connected, and it tells its own story to some degree. And that was my purpose in this book, was not to keep all of those feelings and sentiments and conclusions to myself, but to try and find the best way I could to share it with people, to get those files, those pictures out of the dusty file cabinet, electronic filing cabinet they were in, and get them out where someone could actually see them. And that's the idea. I could have written a textbook about the world also, you know, with graphs and charts and temperatures and things, but if only a very small subset of people would have read it, and none of them would have really got it. They would have just added a little more data to their head. But when you really want people to fundamentally understand something, that's why we do things artistically. You know, that's why all pictures aren't black and white. You know, there's color and texture in life, and that really is how we communicate the wonder and the essence of what's going on. And that's another hope of the book, is that I didn't just choose pretty pictures. I tried to choose pictures with a lot of content and variety and ideas.
And your notations were fascinating too.
And what I wanted was as if, you know, if you and I were going around the world, what would I show you and what would I tell you? You know, and that was because I had to somehow choose from 45,000. So that was I kept thinking to myself, looking at the pictures, oh yeah, I would want to show, if someone was floating, you know, I would think of one of my friends. If I was there with Russ, and Russ and I were looking out the window, what would I want to show Russ once around the world? Oh yeah, I want to show him that. And that picture I took of the snowbirds flying just off of Comox in British Columbia, I would want Russ to see that picture, because that's such a cool image. And I'd really want him to see an active volcano, and I'd want him to see, you know, that was my thought process. And then what would I tell him real time? Because when I go into a museum, you know, I look at the picture, but then I always walk up to the little plate that's next to it, and with the history. Because to me, the link between the straight art of it, but then why it matters, is really important.